Welcome to Master Reading English. Before we begin, I want you to know something important. I'll be speaking at a slower, more deliberate pace throughout this video. Why? Because while you're learning powerful ideas about wealth and success, you're also mastering English reading skills. Follow along with the text on screen. Let each word register. This is learning on two levels at once. Everyone talks about motivation. Get motivated, stay motivated, find your why. But here's what nobody tells you. Motivation is a liar. It promises to show up every day, but it disappears the moment things get hard, the moment things get boring. Real wealth isn't built by motivated people. It's built by people who've mastered something far more powerful. Boredom. The ability to keep going when excitement fades, when the newness wears off, when nobody's watching. Think about this. The wealthiest people you know, they're not doing exciting things every day. They're doing the same boring tasks over and over. Another investment decision, another business meeting, another negotiation. Same patterns, different day. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why boredom is your greatest asset. Why the people who get rich aren't the most passionate, they're the most consistent. And how to rewire your brain to embrace monotony instead of running from it. And while you're absorbing these insights, you'll be strengthening your English comprehension with every sentence. This isn't about hustle culture. This is about something deeper, understanding how wealth actually accumulates when nobody's looking. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are temporary. They come and go like weather patterns. Feeling motivated today? Great. But what about day 47 when the task feels exactly the same as day 46? What about day 150 when you've repeated the same action so many times you could do it in your sleep? Most people chase motivation like it's fuel. They watch videos, read quotes, pump themselves up. They create vision boards and listen to pump-up music. But motivation is more like a sugar rush. Quick energy, fast crash. Then you're back to square one, searching for the next hit. You need another video. Another quote, another reminder of why you started. I'll start when I feel ready. That's the trap. Wealth doesn't wait for readiness. It compounds during the boring middle parts that most people quit. While you're waiting to feel ready, someone else is being unready and building anyway. They're not waiting for perfect conditions. They're creating conditions through repetition. Here's what actually happens in wealth creation. There's a brief, exciting beginning when you start something new. You tell your friends. You set up systems. You feel like you're finally doing something meaningful. Then comes the valley. The long, boring valley where nothing seems to be happening. The numbers barely move. The results look the same as last week, last month even. Most people interpret this as failure and quit. They think if they were on the right path, they'd see faster results. But this valley? This is where wealth is actually being built. This is the testing ground that separates those who will have money from those who will have stories about why they don't. Think about investing. The exciting part is buying your first stock. You watch the price, you check it multiple times a day, you feel like an investor. The boring part is watching it do nothing for months, years even. The price goes up a little, down a little, mostly sideways. You stop checking because there's nothing to see. But that boring part, that's where compound growth happens. That's where wealth quietly multiplies while you're busy living your life. The money you forget about often grows more than the money you obsess over. The people who get wealthy understand this rhythm. They've seen the pattern enough times to trust it. They don't need excitement. They need systems that work even when they're bored. Systems that run whether they're watching or not. Whether they feel motivated or not. The system doesn't care about feelings. It just produces results. Boredom tolerance is like a muscle. Most people have weak boredom tolerance. The moment something stops being interesting, they switch. New project, new strategy, new shiny opportunity. They collect beginnings but never reach endings. Their resume is full of things they started. Their bank account reflects things they finished, which is very little. But here's the secret. Switching costs you everything. Every time you restart, you lose momentum. You lose the compounding effect. You go back to day one. All the knowledge you gained, the connections you made, the small improvements you discovered, they don't transfer to the new thing. You're a beginner again, and beginners don't make money. Experts do. But you can't become an expert if you keep switching before you get there. Wealthy people have developed what I call productive numbness. They can execute tasks on autopilot while their brain does something else entirely. The task doesn't need to be interesting. It just needs to be effective. They've separated entertainment from execution. One is for leisure time, the other is for building time. They never confuse the two. This is too repetitive. Good. Repetition is the mother of mastery, and mastery is the mother of wealth. You cannot master something by doing it once, or 10 times, or even 100 times. Mastery comes from thousands of repetitions, each one boring, each one necessary. The person who complains about repetition is the same person who complains about not having money. These complaints are connected. Think about any wealthy person's daily routine. It's shockingly boring. Same wake-up time, same workout, same breakfast, same review of numbers, same decision-making frameworks. They've turned wealth creation into something as mundane as brushing their teeth. You don't brush your teeth because it's exciting. You brush them because the alternative is worse. Wealthy people treat their money-making activities the same way. Not exciting, just necessary. And consistency in necessary things builds everything. The difference between amateur and professional isn't talent. It's tolerance for repetition. Amateurs need novelty. They need each day to feel different. Professionals need results. They know that different days produce the same results through the same actions. An amateur musician plays when inspired. A professional musician plays whether inspired or not. The professional gets paid. The amateur gets feelings. Here's a powerful reframe. Boredom isn't a problem to solve. It's a signal that you're doing something long enough for it to matter. When you're bored, you're exactly where you need to be. You're past the excitement phase and into the building phase. You've survived the part that eliminates most people. Boredom is your badge of honor. It means you're still here when others have left. This is your advantage appearing. Most people mistake this signal. They think boredom means they're on the wrong path. They interpret it as a sign to change direction. Actually, boredom means they're finally on the right path long enough to see results. It means they're close to the breakthrough, but they quit right before it arrives. They trade long-term wealth for short-term stimulation, and then they wonder why wealth never comes. Compound interest is the most powerful force in wealth building. Everyone knows this. But here's what they don't teach you. Compound interest requires compound boredom. You have to be boring enough to let time work. You have to resist the urge to touch it, change it, improve it, or switch it. The hardest part of compound interest isn't understanding the math. It's doing nothing while the math does everything. Warren Buffett's secret isn't complicated. He found a boring strategy that works and did it for 70 years. Same approach, different day. While everyone else chased exciting new trends, he did the boring thing, again and again. People kept asking him for the secret, the trick, the hidden knowledge. He kept telling them the same boring answer. Nobody believed him, because the answer was too simple, too boring. They kept looking for something more exciting. Meanwhile, he kept getting richer doing the boring thing. But that sounds miserable. Only if you need your work to entertain you. Wealthy people get their excitement elsewhere. Their work is allowed to be boring because their work is effective. They get excited about vacations, about hobbies, about time with family. Their wealth building process, that's just a background program running. It doesn't need to spark joy. It needs to spark income. Think about a business owner who's built real wealth. Their daily routine is mind-numbing to outsiders. Check metrics, review operations, make incremental improvements. Repeat. No drama. No excitement. Just boring, consistent execution. They look at the same spreadsheet every morning. They have the same meetings every week. They make the same types of decisions over and over. An outsider would go crazy with boredom, but that business owner? They're building an asset while everyone else is chasing entertainment. This is where most entrepreneurs fail. They build something to a certain point, get bored, then chase the next exciting idea. They convince themselves the new idea is better, more potential, more aligned with their passion, but really, they're just bored. They spend their lives building to 30% completion on 100 different projects instead of building to 100% on one project. Their graveyard of abandoned projects is their real legacy. The math is brutal. One project at 100% completion is worth infinitely more than 10 projects at 30%. But reaching 100% requires going through the boring middle, the part where nothing seems to happen, where you question everything, where motivation dies, where your friends ask if it's working and you don't have an exciting answer, where the numbers grow so slowly you need a microscope to see progress. This boring middle is where wealth lives. But most people never arrive because they can't endure the journey. Here's the pattern. Excitement gets you started. Boredom gets you wealthy. The question is, can you tolerate boredom long enough for compound effects to kick in? Can you do the same thing today that you did yesterday, knowing you'll do it again tomorrow? Can you watch small numbers grow smaller amounts and trust that time will turn them into big numbers? Because that's what compound boredom looks like, and that's what builds generational wealth. Delayed gratification isn't just about marshmallows. It's about being willing to be bored today for results that might not come for years. This is advanced level boredom mastery. Most people can delay gratification for a day, some for a week. Wealthy people delay gratification for decades. They make boring choices today that their future self will thank them for. I want results now. Everyone does. But wealth doesn't care about your timeline. It operates on its own schedule. Your only choice is whether to stay in the game long enough to collect. Here's what this looks like in practice. While others are optimizing for interesting work, wealthy people optimize for repeatable processes. While others are seeking validation, wealthy people are seeking systems that don't need validation to work. The investor who checks their portfolio once a year outperforms the investor who checks daily. Why? Because daily checking leads to emotional reactions. Emotional reactions lead to changes. Changes interrupt compound effects. The boring approach wins. Think about building wealth like watching paint dry. Literally. If you sit there watching, it's torture. If you set it up and walk away, come back later, it's done. The watching doesn't make it dry faster. It just makes you suffer more. Most people can't handle this. They need to feel like they're doing something. They need activity, action, updates. But wealth accumulation often looks like nothing is happening. The account grows by fractions of a percent. The business revenue inches up. The portfolio barely moves. This is why casinos make money. People prefer the excitement of immediate results, even if those results are losses. Wealthy people prefer the boredom of delayed results, even if that means tolerating uncertainty. Modern society is designed to make you addicted to excitement. Social media, news, notifications, everything is engineered to give you small hits of dopamine. This is the enemy of wealth creation. Your brain doesn't differentiate between types of excitement. Whether it's a notification, a new opportunity, or actual progress, it feels the same. So your brain becomes satisfied with fake progress, with the feeling of movement instead of actual movement. But I love trying new things. That's fine for hobbies. Deadly for wealth building. Wealthy people are shockingly boring in their core strategy. They might have exciting hobbies, but their money-making approach is repetitive to the point of being robotic. Here's the addiction cycle. You start something new, get excited, feel motivated, hit the boring phase, feel demotivated, abandon it for something new. Repeat forever. Never build anything substantial. Breaking this cycle requires conscious effort. You have to recognize excitement as a warning sign, not a green light. When something feels exciting, your brain is getting dopamine. When something feels boring, your brain is probably building something real. Think about the most stable wealth-generating assets: real estate, index funds, established businesses. They're all boring. They don't give you daily excitement. They give you consistent, boring returns. The excitement comes later when you look at your net worth and realize the boring approach worked. The people who build generational wealth, they've learned to get their excitement from results, not from activity. They can tolerate years of boring execution because they know the math. They know boring wins. Most people have it backwards. They want exciting work that produces boring results. Wealthy people do boring work that produces exciting results. Building boredom tolerance is like training for a marathon. You start small. You can't go from needing constant stimulation to tolerating years of repetition overnight. Start with what I call boredom sprints. Pick one wealth-building activity. Commit to doing it every day for 30 days, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring. Track your performance. Watch what happens when you push through the boredom instead of running from it. What if I picked the wrong thing? You probably will. That's fine. The skill you're building, boredom tolerance, transfers to everything else. Once you can be boring with one thing, you can be boring with anything. Here's a practical framework. Identify the most boring, repetitive task in your wealth building plan. The thing you always procrastinate on. That's your training ground. Make a rule. You do that boring thing before you do anything exciting. No exceptions. This rewires your reward system. Right now, your brain rewards you for exciting activities. You need to teach it to reward you for consistent, boring execution. The only way to do this is through practice. Think about it like building calluses. When you first start guitar, your fingers hurt. Playing is uncomfortable. But if you quit every time it hurts, you never build calluses. You never develop the tolerance needed to play for hours. Boredom works the same way. Your first week will be torture. Your brain will scream for something new, something interesting. Push through. Week 2 is easier. Week 3, you barely notice. Week 4, it's just what you do. That's when wealth building actually begins. The secret isn't eliminating boredom. It's changing your relationship with it. Boredom stops being the enemy and becomes your signal that you're on the right track. Let's talk about what wealth creation actually looks like when you strip away the glamour. It's a series of boring, repeatable actions done consistently over long periods. That's it. That's the whole secret. The boring millionaire does these things. They track numbers regularly. They make small optimizations. They stick to proven strategies. They ignore exciting opportunities that don't fit their plan. They review, adjust slightly, and repeat. That doesn't sound inspiring. It's not supposed to inspire you. It's supposed to make you wealthy. Inspiration is entertainment. Wealth is mathematics. Here's what a boring wealth-building day looks like. Wake up at the same time. Review your financial metrics. Make your planned investment or business decision. Do your core money-making work. Review again. Sleep. Repeat tomorrow. Repeat for years. No viral moments. No breakthrough days. No exciting pivots. Just the same boring cycle, producing slightly better results each time. Compound effects doing their thing while you do yours. Compare this to the exciting entrepreneur. They wake up to a new idea. They pivot their strategy. They chase trends. They celebrate small wins publicly. They're always busy, always moving. And 10 years later, they're still starting over. The boring millionaire is playing a different game. They're not trying to win today. They're trying to still be playing in 10 years and in 20 years. Because they know the longer you stay boring, the more wealth compounds. Think about businesses that actually create wealth. They're boring. Logistics companies, manufacturing, distribution, software as a service. They do the same thing over and over, optimizing slightly each time. No drama, just boring execution. The exciting businesses, the ones that make headlines, they usually don't make millionaires. They make stories. Stories are interesting. Wealth is boring. Once you've built boredom capacity, you have to protect it, because the world will constantly try to make you excited again. Every new trend, every opportunity, Every shiny object is designed to pull you away from your boring wealth-building routine. This is where discipline becomes critical. Not the motivation kind of discipline, the boring kind. The kind that says no to exciting opportunities because they don't fit your boring plan. But what if I miss out? You will miss out on lots of things. That's the point. Wealthy people miss out on purpose. They're comfortable missing exciting opportunities because they're committed to their boring strategy. Here's what protecting your boredom looks like. You have a friend who made money on crypto. They're excited. They want you to join. Your boring plan doesn't include crypto. You say no. They can't believe it. You stay boring. 5 years later, your boring plan has compounded. Their exciting bet is gone. This happens constantly. The market gets exciting. Everyone's making moves. You stick to your boring plan. It feels wrong. It feels like you're missing the party. But you're not missing the party. You're building wealth while others are getting entertained. The hardest part about wealth building isn't getting started. It's staying boring when everyone around you is getting excited. It's continuing to do the same thing when it seems like everyone else has found a better way. Think about the tortoise and the hare. That's not a children's story. That's wealth creation in a nutshell. The hare is motivated, excited, fast. The tortoise is bored, consistent, slow. We all know who wins. But most people still choose to be the hare because being the tortoise is too boring. Protecting your boredom means building barriers. Remove exciting distractions. Unfollow people who make you want to change strategies. Stop reading about what's hot. Focus only on your boring metrics that actually matter. Here's something powerful. Most people can't tolerate boredom. This means if you can, you have an enormous competitive advantage. You can outlast everyone else simply by being more boring. In any competitive field, people start excited. The ones who quit first are the ones who need constant excitement. If you can be boring longer than they can stay excited, you win by default. Not because you're better, because you're still there. I'm not special. Exactly. That's your advantage. Special people need special results. Boring people just need results. Lower expectations, higher tolerance, better outcomes. Think about content creation. Everyone starts a channel, a blog, a business. The first few months they're excited, they're motivated, they're producing. Then comes month 6, month 12. The numbers aren't exciting anymore. The work is repetitive. They quit. The boring people who stay, they win everything. This applies to investing, business building, skill development, networking. Everything that creates wealth requires being boring enough to compound. The person who can be boring longer wins. It's that simple. Here's the competitive moat nobody talks about. Boredom. If your strategy can only be executed by someone with high boredom tolerance, most people won't compete with you. They'll quit before they become a real threat. Your willingness to be bored is your protection. Wealthy people understand this instinctively. They pick strategies that require sustained, boring effort. They know most people will get excited, try it, get bored, and leave. This lack of competition is where real money is made. Let me tell you what wealthy people won't. Their lives are often boring by design. Not because they lack imagination, because they've learned that boring creates freedom, exciting creates chaos. The wealthy have boring morning routines, boring investment strategies, boring business operations. They've removed excitement from the wealth-building equation entirely. They get their excitement from having options, not from making money. Is this really what it takes? Yes. And here's the beautiful part. Once you've been boring long enough to build wealth, you can be as exciting as you want with your time. The difference is, you're not dependent on excitement anymore. You're choosing it from a position of freedom. Final truth, wealth isn't built by people who love the process. It's built by people who can tolerate the process long enough to see results. You don't have to love boring. You just have to be willing to be boring. Most people optimize for an exciting journey. Wealthy people optimize for an exciting destination. They're willing to be bored today so they can be free tomorrow. Think about your current approach. Are you chasing motivation? Are you looking for the exciting strategy, the hot opportunity? If so, you're optimizing for the wrong thing. Optimize for boredom. Optimize for consistency. Optimize for longevity. Wealth isn't complicated. It's just boring. Pick a proven strategy. Execute it consistently. Don't change it when it gets boring. Don't chase excitement. Don't need motivation. Just show up. Day after day, year after year. The wealthy person 20 years from now is being built by the boring choices you make today. The question isn't whether you can get motivated. The question is, can you stay bored long enough to get wealthy? Because here's the final secret. Everyone can get motivated for a day. Almost nobody can stay boring for a decade. If you can master boredom, wealth is inevitable. It's just math plus time plus tolerance. Start today. Pick one boring thing that builds wealth. Commit to doing it every day, regardless of how you feel. Embrace the monotony. Welcome the repetition. Become comfortable with nothing changing. That's how wealth is built. Not in exciting moments, in boring ones, over and over. Until one day, you look up and realize the boring approach worked. And by then, you'll be too wealthy to care that it was boring.